When you were decided to grow Zalora and to make it a success, I think you mentioned a couple of times in your previous podcast that there were some part of that time where you think a lot of other people would have given up. There were some big challenges there. So I just wondered, how did you conquer those challenges? Can you give us some insight into what was like the toughest challenges growing Zalora, and how you managed to get through with it?
Yes. So I think the interesting thing of building a business is that you get surprised quite frequently, and you can get surprised by really big things, right? So obviously, e-commerce as a concept sounds, pretty straightforward today, right? You build a website, you put your products there, and then people make an order, and then when they ordered it, you ship it. And you need to market to those customers so they can see that you have those products, right? So it's in itself is kind of a basic concept, but then what you start realizing, especially when you're working across such varied markets and some of them really being emerging economies, is that a lot of the infrastructure that you're used to, doesn't exist. So, for example, one of the things we struggled a lot with in the beginning was how can you get people to pay for this? Because in Norway, it's easy. Everyone just pays with a credit card or a bank card, or you get a gyro and you pay with that directly from your bank account. Now, if you're operating in the country with 300 million people and it's only 3% bank card penetration, or I think at the time was like 15 or 20% bank account penetration, like how do you get paid for the stuff people order? You don't want to serve only 3% of the market, right? So we actually had to develop, a payment system, which obviously was not part of the plan as we built an e-commerce company. And the way we did that is we rolled out the first end-to-end cash on delivery system across a number of markets in Southeast Asia, serving, hundreds of millions of customers. And this in itself is quite challenging because, if you take Norway as an example, but then you blow it up. In Indonesia, you have, about 300 million people. And, if you're sending, let's say, a package to Papua, that package will go from your warehouse to another warehouse, then on a plane will land on another airport. It will go into a truck. That truck will go to another DC, then into another truck. The truck will then unload it on the boat. The boat will unload it to a motorcycle driver in Papua, and the Papua will hand the package to the customer. And then the customer gives you $10. And then this $10 needs to find themselves all the way through a country, which, by the way, $10 is a lot of money for a lot of the people on the way. And it needs to make itself all the way back this value chain to your warehouse, right? So that's obviously a challenge. In the beginning, I think we had something like 100 plus outstanding days of working capital, meaning it took more than 100 days for that $10 to make it back on average. And we managed to bring that down to about 4 days just before I left, which is pretty incredible. But once you have that system in place, it's a huge competitive advantage, right? Because you can serve a number of customers that other people can't, but you're reliant on building such a system. And we could have just given up and said, hey, we're going to serve this 8% of the market and build a much smaller business. Or we could take it head on and develop a payment system. It's the same for logistics, by the way, right? It's like we're struggling a lot to just get packages delivered. So I think in almost 50 cities, we launched a hyper-local delivery network of more than 1,000 motorcycle drivers, which was also not part of, like when you set up an e-commerce company in Norway, you don't think, hey, I need to hire 1,000 motorcycle drivers, right? So it's these types of challenges that you meet as an entrepreneur, which if you solve them, makes you much stronger and you build a moat and you grow much faster. But if you just give up, you end up being a tiny business or you go bankrupt, right? So that's and then you meet all these funny challenges on the way, right? So like, one time we came to our warehouse in Indonesia and the workers didn't want to go to work because there had been a sighting of a ghost in the warehouse. in big parts of Indonesia, people believe in ghosts. It's not really ghosts, but something similar to ghosts. And we had to hire Ghostbusters. It's not really Ghostbusters. It's more like a priest of some sort to come in and clean the warehouse of ghosts, which you also don't, it's also not on your kind of playbook for, building a business that you need to clear your warehouses for ghosts. So there are, but again, like this is incredibly exciting, right? I mean, these types of, if you get excited about these type of challenges and you want to take them head on, then entrepreneurship is for you. If that would make you kind of very nervous and want to give up, then it's probably not worth it in the first place. Because obviously this is very specific to what we were doing, but like any entrepreneur can tell you 10, 15 of these stories with every single company they built. And you need to relish these types of challenges and say, hey, this is a great opportunity for us to do better, and definitely not give up.